right, this is what's happening in the 815.
All right. I am hyphen X, and welcome to the Great Conversation, where we indulge in healthy dialogue about topics that are important in today's society and culture. We got a surprise for everybody today. Coming from the battlefield, from the trenches, I'm going to let her go ahead and introduce herself here. Who we call her? Who we got on the line?
Good morning. This is Anqunette Parham.
Uh-oh. And Ms. Parham, tell us exactly what is your title and the function of that title.
So I am the Executive Director for the Human Services Department for the City of Rockford municipality. So what that means, the Human Services Department for the city is also what's known as the Public Community Action Agency. And what that is an office that basically leverages state and federal funds to help change the lives of individuals who are facing the challenges of living in poverty. So we primarily serve people who are dealing with barriers to employment, to housing, accessing quality early childhood experiences, and more. So here in Rockford, this particular division houses two departments. It houses the Community Services Department and then also Head Start. So, Head Start provides early education opportunities for families. Actually, we provide some prenatal services as well, and then classroom experiences for children as young as 6 weeks up to 3 years old for early childhood. And then we provide services for 3 to 5 for preschool age students as well. So those are the services offered through our Head Start program. And then in community services in that department, we offer prevention services, emergency assistance, the summer food program, community action gardens, a scholarship program, weatherization assistance, the LIHEAP program, which is, the low income energy assistance program, the PIP program, the ComEd residential hardship program, emergency services furnace assistance, and a number of neighborhood and community partnerships as well. So as a division, these two departments are very busy in the Rockford community, and then especially in light of, the COVID pandemic, the number of families that we've served and the amount of work that we are doing to help families really survive has gone up a great deal over the last few months.
Wow. It sounds like it's a lot of water under that umbrella. Like it's a lot going on. And we really appreciate you taking the time out to actually We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to actually come over and a great conversation just to answer a few questions for us here. Now, would you say that your job that you're in now is your passion? Like you enjoy like helping out the community, the people, and not just helping them out, but supplying them with the resources to help themselves?
Oh, most definitely. This is my passion. I spent many years, so I'm an attorney by trade. But I spent many years working in healthcare, public health, community services, and social service agencies. Doing that sort of work, I worked with a number of different populations. I worked many, many years at Crusader Community Health in the Living with HIV program there, and then also working with folks who were coming out of the Illinois Department of Corrections, helping individuals restabilize their lives and really kind of get integrated back into society. So I've always done work that was with and for the people throughout those years, volunteering and working with a number of organizations, a number of youth-serving organizations and other entities throughout our community. So helping people is always something that I've been very passionate about. And I really, became an attorney just to step my level of advocacy up, take that up a notch. So Really, that's the work that I've always done, that I've always been most passionate about, and really helping people to build their self-efficacy, to have a voice, to learn how to navigate systems, and in a lot of ways to change and alter those systems to make them serve the people they're intended for much better than they currently do. So this is definitely life's work or ministry for me. So I definitely enjoy what I do, and I sleep very well at night for that reason.
Awesome. Now, you said about helping bring forth change, and we're seeing that you're working in conjunction with other concerned citizens right now, and you're coming up with these, you guys have come up with a platform for listening sessions so that people that have experienced police brutality here in the Rockford area have a chance to sit down with not only the police chief, but also the mayor as well, and have an opportunity to be heard. What are some of the things that you want to see, or results that you would like to see come out of these listening sessions?
So ultimately, one of the things that we have to be honest about is the fact that Black people have been categorically disregarded and not believed with regards to our negative interactions with police in communities around this country and even around the world, which is why I think we've seen so much recent uprising and unrest, because we're exhausted. We're exhausted with just merely asking to be treated like human beings, asking for our humanity to be recognized. That is exhausting. So the uprising that you see and the pushback that you see in communities all around the world is for that very reason. And so one of the things that we wanted to start with, again, in this community was really just even for our people to have a platform to be heard, people who may not have had a voice, some people who may have filed a formal complaint, some people who may not have filed a formal complaint, but for them to have a platform to say, you know what, this happened to me, this is what I experienced at the hands of law enforcement. They may go on to say, this is how it's impacted me. This is why I have distrust issues or whatever. But our people have a right to be believed. We have been victimized and traumatized. And so people have a right to be believed. And several other young people in this community wanted to make sure that we had a platform for people to state their piece and to have a space to be believed. And so really that's what it was about, both because the city needed to hear. They needed to hear from people. They needed to hear from this perspective. They needed to hear in a space where there wasn't, this is not the opportunity for rebuttal and making excuses about what happened. This is the opportunity for people who have experienced trauma at the hands of law enforcement to be heard. So primarily, that was the first goal. Now, we understand that the listening session, this is a small piece of overall long-term strategy that, to be honest, hasn't been completely hammered out. There are a number of entities within our community that are looking to work together towards long-term strategizing and looking at how we can improve the community as a whole. So this is just one piece, but many people felt it critically important for our people to be listened to and not disregarded, to be provided specific space to speak truth to power about what had happened to them. So that was really, that was our primary objective. Now from that, what we hope to learn is information about the complaint process here locally. What does that look like? What have Black people experienced when they did attempt to file complaints? How were those complaints handled? In these situations that people come forward with, were those issues handled according to policy or were they not? And it can help us to identify gaps in the policy and to create effective policy change. And, recently, there's also been the city's Community Relations Commission has been holding hearings regarding the Rockford Police Department's use of force policy. Well, one of the things that's come to light is that, okay, it's one thing for your use of force policy to say one thing, but what is actually happening on the streets? And it is important to hear from people who have had those experiences. So we're also looking forward to using this as an opportunity to collect additional anecdotal data from folks about what's really happened and what their experiences have been when they did attempt to stand up for themselves and address their experiences with the powers that be and within the existing system for complaint.
Wow. So, because a lot of people, let's just be honest, a lot of people are seeing, like, listening sessions. We already talked to them, this, that, another, but this is not a blind listening session, if you will. This is a listening session that has a strategy. Like, I'm so happy that you laid out that strategy, being transparent, because this is not for you, like you've already said. This is giving people an opportunity who have not have a history of not being heard and not being believed, to have a safe place to come and express their grievances. And also
Exactly.
exposure to see how is the process done. Is the process, does it withhold to what's going on? What happens once the complaints are put in? What happens once things, what disciplinary actions happen? Now, let me ask you this question. I want to say maybe this is a two-part question. Are you for defunding the police or abolishing the police? And if not, what do you think is the answer to eliminating police brutality?
So I'll start with the conversation around defunding and abolishing the police. I am for Rockford as an urban community. I am for our community looking like the suburbs. All right. I want young people who have issues to have supportive networks to get what they need. I want children who have difficulty in school to have access to social workers and counselors and not be arrested. I want the juvenile detention center to not be the first option for a child that has issues in a classroom. The same way that resources are delineated in nice suburban areas, the same way that children have resources, the same way that youth who have addiction issues have access to treatment as opposed to jail. I want to see that in an urban area. So that means that you are reallocating funds from a police department and putting them towards community and human and social services to help actually build the communities that we need to provide adequate prevention and an adequate level of resources so that people don't have to interface the criminal justice system. That is what I want to see. Because let's be perfectly honest, and as our local police department has a ton of issues and responsibilities that have been placed on them that in all honesty should not have been. We have defunded they're not qualified to do. We have defunded mental health services. We've defunded social services. We've defunded healthcare. We've defunded all these other areas. And now the only tool we have literally to respond to anything, and then the area that has ultimately that bears the burden of addressing these issues and is policing. And let's be honest, that is not appropriate. It is not. No. And when the only tool you have is a hammer, you look at every problem like a nail. So if right now our only tool is policing, we address all these issues with force. That's really not going to get us to the root of those problems. So it is time for us to step back and really fully utilize prevention and other services in a way that takes us away from the criminal justice system, from policing, the criminal justice system, the school to prison pipeline, that takes us away from those things and actually puts the services in place for people who need them. So that is what I want to see. I want to see our communities, I want to see our budgets reflect the actual desires of our community in terms of the way we serve people in need and the way we make sure that mental health care and social services and human service capabilities are there for folks who need it, not just jail.
It almost sounds like, I hate to be a conspiracy theorist, but it almost sounds like funding these other areas, it's almost a setup to arrest more people. You know what I'm saying? If you look back just even at
at the history of policing and some of the history around criminal justice in our country, you look at things like, major crime bills and major like federal level legislation that took place in the 90s and in the 2000s. It was not like these things didn't happen. They didn't happen by accident, but ultimately what happened was that we completely, just further militarized policing in this country. And then by defunding all these other areas that provided services that ultimately reduce crime, even these things happened under the guise of all this additional funding went towards policing as an effort. It was done under the guise of saying we were under public safety, that we were increasing safety. But the reality is the safest communities in the world are not the ones that are over-policed. They're the ones.
Why do you think that is? Yeah, okay.
Because
like you said,
over-policing is inversely proportional to providing adequate services to people. The police are not the solution when you don't have the other appropriate services. The police can't be the solution.
Yeah. It's like everything needs to work in conjunction with each other. You know what I'm saying? Like that should be the final step should be jailing. Because I know like there's a lot of people that just need help that are locked up. A lot of mental health people are locked up. A lot of people that are substance abuse, they're locked up. And it's so funny to me like how they struggle with substance abuse on the outside, but when they're on the inside and they don't have access, they function so much better. They have a schedule, things of that nature. So you're right. So we had adequate services on the outside. They wouldn't have to go. They could skip the part of going to jail to get rehab and go to rehab and have the adequate services that are around them to help them build and rehabilitate into society. Because I know it's so hard to find a job nowadays for people that are coming in. I myself a felon, when you come out and it's like you did your time. You had your sentence, but now it's like that sentence never leaves because now you're out and you're always constantly reminded of something that you did 10, 15 years ago, and it prohibits you from making it through life. I'll say it like that, getting through life, getting opportunities given to you. What would you say to felons that are trying to reintegrate into society and that are constantly rejected from jobs because of their background?
So, I think that, and again, when we talk about over-policing of neighborhoods, when we talk about the criminalization of certain behaviors, we can't even engage in this conversation when we talk about how many people have been sent to the Department of Corrections for crimes related to, the sale and possession of marijuana, and now right here in our own state, it is legal. Right?
Yeah.
So when we talk about the criminalization of certain behaviors, what is crime? That question, that's a question that you can't ask in a vacuum. There is always historical context to that statement. Think about in this country, there was a time when it was against the law to possess and consume alcohol. So at that point in time, during Prohibition, you were a criminal if you possessed and used alcohol. Well, a few years after Prohibition, then it wasn't a crime. So and also the definition of crime can have, can have relative meaning. So I think it's very critical even to talk about that. What are we defining as crime or as certain types of crime within a certain time? And I would say here, just even in the state of Illinois, our state legislature has taken steps to lessen the impact of, that label of felon on people in terms of some of the additions to the laws around expungement and sealing of criminal records here in Illinois. Several years ago, that process was incredibly restrictive. There were very few things that you could actually get expunged or sealed. And now there are very, very few things that you cannot get expunged or sealed. So so they did a flip flop on that, I think, in recognition of the fact that have we gone too far in providing lifelong punishment to folks who have already served their time when they get out and they're looking to reintegrate and become a productive part of our society? Have we given them a label that actually keeps them disengaged from becoming vital citizens and contributing to, to the local economy and to our local systems? And that's critically important, and that's why there have been a number of moves in regards to that right here in this state. And again, I think it's always good to know, Illinois does not disenfranchise felons from voting. So even in that once you are, once you have served your sentence, you have a right to vote. Felons have never lost the right to vote in the state of Illinois. So you've always had that right. So knowing what your rights are, but again, understanding that, certain steps and labels were really prohibiting people from being able to be productive and get jobs and support their families after they had already paid their debt to society. And so the state's taken steps to do that. I know a few years ago, I did some, for the past couple years, actually, Senator Stottleman hosts an expungement and sealing workshop and event here locally that I participated in helping folks get their petitions together. And one of the things that the presenter said was that here in Winnebago County, that our county has one of the lowest usage rates of actually filing these petitions for expungements and sealing.
Wow.
And when we had the event, people would come. There were I want to say, maybe a couple hundred slots over the course of the day for people to come and sign up. I mean, people waited, for hours for an opportunity to get assistance with filing their petitions. So it's not because there isn't a need. The need is great. And even in the face of that, this county did not, even in the face of that, folks in this county who could take advantage had not been taking advantage.
Well, I'm definitely going to get off my butt.
I would say to any person who's eligible to look into to look into that.
Because you know what it is, though? You know what it is? And I'm just going to be honest. It's that, like you said, there's a trust issue between blacks and the government. And also the advertising for these things. I always find out about the expungement clinics and everything a day late and $1 short. You know what I'm saying? I find out about them, and it's it's today at 10. From 10 to 2, and I find out at 3 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh man, I wish I would have known. So yeah, just let us know, and we'll help push that information because I need to get down there as well. I need to get down there as well and get everything done. But it's going to take for change to truly happen. We got about less than a minute here. Everything in order for everything to really happen, it's going to take everybody being in their lane. You know what I'm saying? In their strength. Striving for the same common goal, and that's what it's going to have to take. And I really appreciate everything that you're doing for our city and for our community, and for my daughter, because my daughter is going to see a strong black woman. You know what I'm saying? That's not afraid to stand up and nurture us. We think that you're being strong and disciplining us, but this is a nurturing act. What you're doing. You know what I'm saying? This is nurturing for our community, and we really need that, and I really appreciate that. I want to thank you for coming on. We got about 60 seconds here. I want to thank you for coming on and everything. We're going to definitely reach out in the future and have a longer conversation. I just want to say thank you, and always remember, guys, that you don't always have to agree to have a great conversation. Peace.
Thank you.